Krishna Nam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Gopal ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nityananda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakabharato Sankirtanaika Pitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijabaro Yugadharma Paro Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karuna Bhataro Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Sahodito Gurudaya Pushpavanto Chitro Sandotamanuno Vandeham Shri Ramakrishna Abhaya Charano Sako Sukado Paramanando Sundaro Subala Priyo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Shri Gauri Vaishnava Guru Parampara Ki Jai Shri Udanata Thakur Abhirabha Mamutsavatiti Ki Jai. Morning. Hello to everyone online, whatever time it may be there, wherever you are. Good to be with you all. And today we are commemorating the holy appearance of Udarandata Thakur, one of Nityananda Prabhu's chief assistants. So I have spoken on about him in the past. We've read about him here in the morning. Last week, when we were reading a section from Circle of Friends about the Dwadasa Gopals, I think I mentioned him during the subsequent class that day, but I want to go into a little more detail about his life and contribution on the sacred day. And his picture is here on the altar. This is a famous painting of Udarandata Thakur, and the original is there at Udaranpur, at his Shripat, at his center. As I mentioned in my chapter that includes a discussion of the Dwadasa Gopals in Circle of Friends, although they are described in Chaitanya Bhagavat, in Chaitanya Charitamrita and other places, to at times have worn their Sakyarasa heart on their sleeve, so to speak, on their outward sadhaka deha, donning peacock feathers and ankle bells and flutes and sticks for herding cows and buffalo horns and so forth. You can see here from the picture of Udarandata Thakur that that must have been occasional when their bhava could not be checked, because here he is adorned in Vaishnav sadhaka dress with tilak and looks like maybe a holy name stamped along with the tilak markings on his body, shaved head, tulsi, japamala, neck beads, and so forth. Very beautiful, very, very beautiful. So this is the dress through which to stand in the wings of Gaur Leela, from which you can enter into the stage of Krishna Leela in another form. In this case, the case of Udarandata, as a friend of Krishna and Balaram. So, Udarandata Thakur ki jai. So Udarlata Thakur was he was born in the common era of 1482, which makes him approximately 4 years older than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and 8 years younger than Nityananda Ram. So a contemporary of theirs, and he was born in the what's called the Suvarnavanik community. Shikara was his father, and I think Bhagravati was his mother's name. And this Suvarnavanik community, prior to his appearance, which was obviously in the 15th century, 1482, he would have been born. Mahaprabhu was born in 1486. So this is the latter part, last quarter of the 15th century. Uh, Centuries prior to that, in the 12th century, the rule of Balal Sen, Hindu king at the time, who was a patron of the arts and Sanskrit and learning and so on and so forth. He largely presided over what were areas known as Goda, Navadvip, and Suvarnagram. And Suvarna means gold. Suvarnagram was the where the Suvarnavanik means merchants, or gold merchants. These gold merchants resided. They were mercantile class, which is one mercantile business or trade. One the king Baal Sain apparently had quite an appetite for spending and enjoying his life, which is fairly common for the kings, as you can imagine. But in order to facilitate uh, his pursuits, sensual pursuits, he was borrowing money from the Suvarnavanik gold merchant community. And at a certain point, the leader of the community said, "No more loans for the king." So the king didn't like this very much. And as the history goes, the king subsequently had a gathering, and everyone was invited. But because the Suvarnabhumi community had tightened the purse, so to speak, it's hard to imagine how a king would want a loan. But we aren't familiar with all the dynamics of the economic situation there. But this is the history coming from the Udaranpur itself. There's some literature that's been published from there, and such histories we can find. So at this gathering where everyone was fed, maybe it was some, for what purpose, I don't know. But the Suvarnavanik community was put in a separate quarter from everybody else, which wouldn't have been the norm. And so the leader of the community at the time took exception to that, and they all walked out without eating. And so this back and forth began to escalate. And the right-hand man of the king, who already was upset on behalf of the king, and probably what would have enhanced his own sensual life of enjoyment, had the community of gold merchants not tightened the purse. He was also upset with it. He began a campaign on behalf of the king to disenfranchise the Suvarnavana community from the social religious system. Because they were Vaishyas, a Vaishya community, they could wear the sacred thread. So the Brahmins the Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas would wear the sacred thread in the Varnashram, the Sudras would not. Mm. The Kshatriyas and the Vaishyas, so the royal community and the agricultural mercantile community, they were called Dvija Bandhus. So Bandhu means friend, friend of the Dvija, friend of the twice born, friend of the Brahmins. Mm. And they so they could undergo the sacred thread ceremony and so forth, something that the young boys did. Mm. So at this time, in pursuit, as I say, of disenfranchising them, they were accosted in public. Their threads were cut, sacred threads were cut, and they went to the streets with drums and cymbals and made proclamations about the community. And so the Savarnic community, this was in probably the Dhaka area, which is East Bengal, they dispersed largely. Some, of course, couldn't due to their economic circumstances and so forth, but the great majority of them, they spread far and wide. Some of them went as far as Gujarat. But one of the areas which is quite far away, but one of them, one of the areas in closer in the vicinity of the Gauda Mandal was the Saptagram area, an area of 7 villages. Saptagram, gram means village, so 7 villages. And this area was well situated on the bank of the Ganga, or a branch of the Ganga. So I read, it comes to mind now, some time ago, account from the Portuguese, who around this time, maybe in the 16th century, which was the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's campaign. By in the 16th century, he was out and about preaching, right? Um, the Portuguese came to the area and they reported their experience of the Saptagram area. And what was notable was that the people the dispensation under the at the behest of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the part of Sri Nityananda Ram. Nityananda Ram Ki Jai. Mm. So he came to Satyagram. Um, this is where his um, outreach, if you will, is um, as far as one concentrated area is much has been written about. Mm. And when he came to Saptagram performing Sankirtan with his associates, it said he went straight to the house of Dvikara. Dvikara was the name of Bhadravati and her husband, who whose name Nityananda Prabhu changed. Changed it to Udharan. Datta is with the family name. So it's Dvikara Datta. Dvikara means to work, to making. Dvi means here the day maker. The day maker. It's a name for the sun. Name for the sun. Right? So as bright as he was in the eyes of his parents to have given him such a name, the, the, the deeper brightness of the jewel of Udarandatta Thakur was brought out directly by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came directly to his home. There, the community was outside, to some extent, of the influence of Balal Sain, and so they were wearing their threads and trying to carry on and so forth. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu said when he came there and he saw Udarandatta, he cited 2 verses from the Padma Purana. And the gist of these verses is that one who has um, into whose heart Krishna's name has gone, um, then what need does he have for a thread? Mm. Rather, he should be adorned with tulsi mala, and this is sufficient for him. Mm. This is a powerful statement from the Padma Purana, of which there are many statements throughout the sacred texts, if we care to look for them, which our Goswamis have, texts that uh, make clear the position of the social religious system of Varnashram, ordained as it is by Bhagwan and in the scriptures, the place of it in relation to the Bhakti Marg, Vaishnavism. And while they're interrelated, and one is meant to foster the other to some extent, in as much as within the system of Varnashram, as it calls for the veneration of gods and goddesses presiding over the natural elements which we are dependent upon for our pursuit in life, the name of Vishnu is also included. And so some worship of Vishnu is also found in Varnashram. Thus, as Varnashram properly executed which is the Karma Marg or the Dharma Marg, same idea, is meant to bring one to Gyan. In a remote sense, also, the highest Gyan, of course, is Bhakti. It can bring us to Bhakti, at least Vaidhi Bhakti. Although Rag Bhakti is said to only be possible by Mahat Kripa, by the great mercy of great souls. But anyway, we honor the Varnashram. It's not. It's kind of a broader outreach. And the heart of it is, after all, if it's the path of Dharma, what is the essence of Dharma? Some Siddhi of Bhagavatam says, Haritoshanam. So the perfection, Siddhi of Dharma is Haritoshanam, the pleasure of Hari. And so, in that sense, at its heart, really, is bhakti. We look at it in the broadest sense, even though the two paths, in other words, once you step off the path of Varnashram, having developed faith in the efficacy of Krishna Nam, the practices of bhakti, then you're not obliged to the Varnashram system anymore. You're on another trajectory, another path that will take you far beyond where you can reach by perfecting yourself in terms of that which is possible within the Varnashram system, right? So the Tulsi Mala is enough for devotees. They don't need a Brahman thread, sacred thread, which the Padma Purana verses say may end up being just a symbol for caste pride, right? And this, of course, is symptomatic of Kali Yuga. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam that the Brahminical class is corrupt in Kali Yuga. So you can understand that if the Brahminical class is corrupt, this is the beginning of the whole speaking of the Bhagavatam, right? The Brahmin boy cursed the Vaishnav, Param Vaishnav, Raj Parikshit. He shouldn't have done that. He misunderstood the position of the Vaishnav, thought himself superior to. But of course, this was arranged internally by Bhagavan that the Raj could become the inquirer to who would be answered by Sukadeva Goswami, and the Bhagavad discourse made available to us, right? But the point there is that the Brahminical class is said to be corrupt in Kali Yuga. And so if the Brahminical class is corrupt, what is the situation for the rest of the Varnashram? Still, we don't think it's bad, but we have to take this into consideration. And we see it practically. And it's a very good example of this, unfortunately, is prominent in some sectors of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Now remember, Varnashram is the karma marg. Right? If you can, pass through it, you come to Gyan, then you're heading for Mukti, beyond the world, towards what you are beyond your humanity. In other words, Varnashram is largely in the pursuit of a happy human life and a life after that affords more of the same. Right? It's not that by practicing the Varnashram you're going to go to Tapaloka or Siddhaloka. You can go to Svarga, a heavenly realm. But of course, from there, again you'll come down, right? It's like a roller coaster, like a Ferris wheel. You go up and down, up and down. I never liked that ride as a kid. Especially the coming down part that I had a problem with, over the edge there. So, so the example that I will cite for you is pertinent in that I have seen over the years and even in recent times a group of devotees who were initially inspired and whose faith in Vaishnavism came from our Paribar, which is practically everybody in the whole international community, coming from the outreach of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, my Guru Maharaj, and so forth, who then, to be fair, got somewhat disenchanted due to some misrepresentation in terms of spiritual leadership within that community, and ended up going outside of the Bhakti Vinod Paribar and the to other Vaishnav Gaudiya lineages within Bengal, within Vrindavan, and so forth, and there they found still hanging around after all these years, some angst and criticism of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and his campaign. And so they were shared these complaints with these discontents. Maybe they have some justification for their discontent, as I say, having left our parivar because of misrepresentation within it, which you can find, right? But they were fertile ground for giving new life to complaints that largely my Guru Maharaj and his powerful campaign, the likes of which can only be compared to that of Nityananda himself, had just kind of suffering, unfortunately, from a moral lapse himself, also started to doubt the campaign of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He saw some problems with it, but then he exaggerated, which can happen. You make an emphasis on preaching over bhajan for reasons, because bhajan wasn't really what it was supposed to be. Then there can be an excess in preaching, which requires some balance. So Ananta Vasudeva was noticing that, but he went a little overboard, really, and became a critique. He kind of criticized Bhaktisiddhanta without naming him, but wrote some books along these lines and so forth. So this was just like really like nectar for those that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was criticizing. Not that the criticisms of Ananta Vasudeva were an endorsement of what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati saw in some of the Gaudiya traditions that he objected to, but those sectors anyway were quick to embrace such complaints as if it was to verify that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mission was not a bona fide representation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings and so on and so forth. So these fellows, yeah, got men and women who left our paribar and um, went to hear Harikatha, more esoteric teachings and so forth. They got a good dose of this packaged together with so-called esoteric teachings. And the complaints is that he gave Brahmin threads to people. Gave Brahmin threads to people. And what a terrible deviation, what a horrible sin. So from the Vaishnava point of view, it's about as important to wear one as it is not to wear one. We've already heard from Padma and Nityananda Prabhu's statement, Udarandata, you don't need this thing. You need the Tulsi Mala, that's all. But the implication is, and this was the wisdom of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, if it would be useful for Vaishnavism's cause to elevate people and give them a better understanding of Vaishnavism, we'll put the thread on people. Because if they don't need the thread, because they're in a higher position being Vaishnavas, then if wearing the thread, which people think is very important, and gives you the right to worship the deity, then we'll put it on them. So they won't criticize persons who don't have the thread of worshiping the deity, which is an anga of bhakti, archan. They have every right to, but people aren't educated. I mean, you have to understand, this has been going on for a long, long time. What is the very center of the Bhagavatam? What is the very heart of the Srimad? This goes to the heart of Srimad Bhagavatam. The gopis. The gopis, deviating in appearance from Varnashram, right? To meet Krishna. According to the Varnashram, they should not have been meeting Krishna in the dead of night and giving up their Sri Dharma. The Dharma for women, and stay at home, cook, whatever may be the case. It's certainly not to go out at night after some flute playing fellow at moonlight, right? And let your milk boil over on the stove and your babies cry, and if you have them, and neglect your husbands, and so on and so forth. No, this is the very heart of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's extremely, extremely revolutionary. It says at the outset, Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir hoksajay, ahoy takiya pratyayataya atmasam prasidati. This book is about prema dharma, paro dharma. Not the ordinary Vaishnava, Varnashram Dharma, Paro Dharma. And then it's played out in the 10th canto, in the very center of it all. And this is, the Bhagavatam is extremely revolutionary. It's like the New Testament of sorts. It says, out with the law and in with love. Law. So similarly, it's you have the Bhagavatam. It's done out with the law, in with love, right? And the very full, perfect object of love comes into this. It's on center stage. Bhagavan, Shri Krishna, Brajendranandan Krishna, Shyam Sundar, right? So the Bhagavatam, the point is making a case there that the common people was like off the map for them. What the gopis were doing, these are the heroes, or the stars, the example par excellence of the Bhagavatam, of what it means to be dharmic, and it looks just the opposite. So the Bhagavatam is trying to like make a case, and everyone is, of course, at best, and the majority were following the social religious system, which was thought to be the sum and substance of religion. You follow religion, you get it, you pray for a good son, a good daughter, a good wife or husband, or this or that, to go to heaven, and you follow the rules and so forth. You be a good citizen, and you're going to get rewarded, right? Um, and of course, in the optimum and the long term, you might pass through and become a sannyasi. Therefore, as they say, the Varnashram is about dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Moksha. Don't say it too loud. Don't say it too loud. And as loud as the scriptures do say it, ears are close to that. Oh, it's a beautiful idea. Unless it's my son who decides to go to the Himalaya. No, 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 no. Don't be fanatical. Be religious, but don't be a fanatic like this. We brought you into this world. We've given you a life, and now you're supposed to take care of us too, in your old age, not just run off to the Himalayas. What to speak of our daughter, right? So those are the weirdos, right? The sadhu. We respect them, right? We respect them because Shastra, we don't really understand them. We have some idea, but they're out of the society. They're not. They come into the society to take people out, right? That's what they do. We honor them. We give them some role, but we don't see them that often anyway. So that's not a big deal. Every now and then one shows up and asks for some milk. Of course, we respect them. We listen to them formally, but it doesn't really go into the heart. It goes into the ear. It doesn't go too far into the heart. That's difficult. That's difficult to cleanse the heart, to give up the anarthas. Right? This is difficult. Charming idea. Oh, very charming. But then the practice means, oh, well, I've got something else to do now. I'd love to hear about the ideal. It's very beautiful, but liberation, yes, free, even by Kunta. But when you talk about how to go there, well, I'm a little busy right now. That doesn't sound so good. That requires some sacrifices. I often say love is born from the womb of sacrifice, right? So this is not a new problem, right? You have to establish what is Varnashram, what is Vaishnavism, and what is the Bhagavata's idea of Vaishnavism, the Rag Bhakti, in comparison to Varnashram, when the whole society is following the Varnashram system and thinks this is the sum and substance of religion. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, Golokeru Premodhan Harinam Sankirtan. With this Sankirtan, and they thought this is a new religion, right in Navadvip. They complained to the Muslim ruler. This guy, he's chanting Krishna Nam in public like this. You shouldn't do that. He loses power. They had many misconceptions. Right? It was like a new religion. They didn't understand it. And Nityananda Prabhu, even more difficult to understand, but going everywhere amongst the common people and performing Sankirtan, right? So, the common people would, in the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta, under the direction of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, came up with this plan, so to speak, where he would give the Brahman thread to his male disciples when they received the Mantra Diksha. He would receive the Brahma Gayatri. And his idea was that, well, they're Vaishnavas, so they're at least Brahmins. People think you need to be Brahmins to worship the deity, or you have to have the thread. And so they've got the thread. People will think, oh, I guess it's okay. Number one, they won't offend the Vaishnavas. And two, the Vaishnavas, who may be intimidated by the social system itself, will feel encouraged. Well, I got the thread, so I guess it's okay. I mean, that's how heavy it is. Do you understand? You can hear it if we're not from the Varnashram system, so it doesn't have the same effect on us. But if you have some scars for that, for lifetimes and so forth, and someone comes and says, you don't need a thread, Hmm? To worship a deity. Just wear this Tulsi bead. I don't know about that. Hmm? Really? Oh, okay. And he's a powerful guru. I see that, but still, what was my father going to say? What was my mother going to say? What were my friends going to say? Hmm? When Prabhupada opened the Krishna Balaram temple and installed the deities, there were five, I think there were 5 or 6 Brahmin boys from the Braj who took initiation from Prabhupada, and it was a big deal. Hmm? And their friends said, how many chapatis are you going to eat? I mean, you're going to eat from the hands of those foreigners who cook? Hmm? And you call yourself a Brahmin? Hmm? What is this Vaishnavism? It just ruins the Varnashram. Hmm? They had to have courage to come and take initiation from Prabhupada. Right? And it was a big thing. Of course, Krishna Balaram prevailed and they took initiation and so forth. Hmm? But I just trying to give you some idea how powerful this Varnashram, remnants of it, sensibilities are, basically caste consciousness, hmm? Prevailing over real spiritual substance. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he thought, we'll give them the thread. Hmm? And he would look at verses um, such as, initiation from bona fide guru turns yeah, one into a Brahman at least, or something like that. Like you take, there's a verse, gold and, no, you take, what is it? Something, something in mercury, you mix it together, get gold, it was thought, alchemistry, I forget. Similarly, anyway, was the idea, was the analogy. Similarly, by um, proper initiation from a Vaishnava, one becomes at least a Brahman. Or, texts like Sat Karma Nipano Vipro Mantra Tantra Visharda. In Vaishnava, Svapacho Guru. If you're qualified with all the 6 qualities of a Brahmin, but you're not a Vaishnava, you cannot be a Guru. But if you're born in a Chandala family, but you're a Vaishnava, you can be a Guru. Hmm? I remember citing this to one of these people that were complaining that only Brahmins can be gurus. Only born in Brahmin families can be gurus. Doesn't matter if you're a Vaishnava, if you're a Vaishnava from some other family. These are the people that wouldn't let Haridas Thakur in the temple. You should tell them like that in meetings. You think it's okay for Haridas to come in the temple? I mean, basically what we're saying is no. I quoted this verse to one of them. This is not our Gaudiya Vaishnava. These are Gaudiya Vaishnavas. This is not our Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Unless you're born in the Brahmin family, you cannot serve in the capacity of a Vaishnava guru. I quoted this verse that I just quoted from the Purana. He said, that means Siksha Guru, not Diksha Guru. I said, really? Can you give me anywhere outside of a Gaudiya Vaishnava text like Chaitanya Charitamrita that the term Siksha Guru is even found? Is it found in the Bhagavad Gita? Is it found in any other Purana? Is it found in the Upanishads? Where there's many verses about the gurus, right? Does it make that distinguish? This is a distinguishing that it must be born in a Brahmin family, and if you're not, you may be a qualified Vaishnava, but you can only serve as a Siksha Guru. What is being said there? That the Brahmin Vaishnava Guru has some spiritual position that makes him or her more qualified to give initiation than the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When it brings up the term Siksha Guru, what does it tell us? It says, in terms of spirituality, There's no difference between the guru, the Siksha guru, and the Diksha guru. He speaks equally about both with very highest praise. It's only a difference in function. One functions in this way, one functions in that way. There's no mandate that only one born in a Brahmin family can be a Diksha guru, and otherwise you have to be a Siksha guru. And there are many examples. Narottam Das Thakur was a Kshatriya. Was he a qualified guru? What do you think? Gaur Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod, Bhakti Siddhanta. You know, how many there's in the modern times? The first really prominent example I went to, Narottam Thakur. You can't get a bigger guru than Narottam Thakur, right? Kshatriya. So there are many examples. There is no, you cannot win this debate from scripture, as I'm also explaining. No, that's not supportable. So where is this coming from, this push? It's coming from caste consciousness. That's what it's coming from. The pride of caste consciousness. And it's prominent in some circles. And therefore, criticism of Bhaktisiddhanta for giving the thread. Such a deviation. And the Brahma Gayatri. What is that? It's not a Vaishnava, Gaudiya Vaishnava mantra. I mean, this just shows you how uneducated these people with this criticism are. Why is that? Because Gayatri Vashi Rupo So, among other things, Garuda Purana says, and Jiva Goswami quotes it, Srimad Bhagavatam is a Gayatri Bhasya. It's the Bhasya, a commentary on the meaning of the Gayatri mantra. Now, do we think that the Bhagavatam and its meaning has anything to do with Gaudiya Vaishnavism? It was the very heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, right? All of our books are based on Bhagavatam. And Satyam Param Dimahi. At the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, the word Dimahi, the last word of the first verse, Jiva Goswami has explained, this implies that the whole book is going to be, is properly understood as a commentary on the meaning of Gayatri Mantra. And he gives his explanation in Tattva Sandarbha and in Paramatma Sandarbha. We have a beautiful commentary on Gayatri by Pujapad Sridhar Maharaj in contemporary times, also leading to Radha Dasyam. Jiva Goswami makes clear the case. This is a mantra for Krishna, for Vishnu, for Vaishnavas. It's not about, and I've heard them say, what is this? He gives a Surya, mantra, worship of the sun. And on one hand, they're saying he gives a Surya mantra. What is that? And the Brahman thread is contradictory in itself. He's giving this lower mantra, he's giving this higher thing, as if it's so important, the sacred thread. Very confused kind of idea, but it rises out of this really bodily consciousness, caste consciousness, on the part of some caste Goswami gurus they've come in touch with, and offering this kind of criticism of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He gave the Brahman thread. He gave the Brahma Gayatri. This is all deviation from Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Not only is it deviation from Gaudiya Vaishnavism, in which we don't do those two things, it's an offense to the scriptures. I believe it's the Govardhan Math from Jagannath Puri, who's a very outspoken guy. You can find him on YouTube, and he attacks Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which is very interesting because it just shows how big ISKCON has become in India. how popular it has become, that he has to speak out against it. Hmm? His critics, oh, I'd just love to get in a debate with him. I would love to. Hmm? But um, when an Abhyogandha went to see him, he came out from his room, and as soon as he saw Abhyogandha Swami, he said, "Your guru has ruined Hinduism." And basically, they're very, very extremely caste conscious, of course. The Shankarites, in that school, you had to be born in a Brahmin family, and then after however many births in a Brahmin family, you have to take sannyas in order to attain mukti, right? The caste Brahmin, the Smarta Brahmins, the religious sector of the monastics in the Shankar Sampradaya. So it's very powerful, this caste consciousness, and it really amounts to bodily consciousness. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as I say, he reasoned that these are Vaishnavas receiving the Vaishnava mantra, and they're qualified for all angas of bhakti. It said, what is the qualification for Vaishnavism? Scripture says it's the same qualification that's required for bathing in the Ganges. Everybody can do it. Everybody and anybody. The Varnashram people would think these are less people. We require more qualification. And if you have no caste, you call yourself a Gaudiya, then you think you become better than Varna. This was the kind of thing you would hear at the time of Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhakti Vinod. So anyway, as you Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he would give the Brahmin thread. And his logic, his reasoning was that it wasn't customary to do that. In fact, it was customary to take off the thread. Of course, you won't find these caste Brahmins, caste Goswamis doing that. They won't take off the thread. They're Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We respect them. Some of them are situated such, from what I can hear, their propaganda, that their bhakti is overshadowed by karma. Karma. It should be karma anabhritam, not covered by karma. This is the karma marg. You find the same thing coming from some modern day Gaudiya sects or institutions, let's say, where they say women cannot be gurus. Gaudiya Vaishnavism. What's the proof? They don't have the thread. They didn't get the thread. How can they be a guru? I mean, they really don't understand very much about why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave the thread. And then their arguments are all from Sri Dharma. This is the duties of the women. The women should function like this only. We have to follow Sri Dharma. We have to follow the Varnashram. But this is just social. This is a social religious system. In the Varnashram system at the time, it wasn't socially acceptable for women. It wasn't socially, I would say, practically a good idea for a woman to be a guru, because she had certain roles and duties and so forth that were part of the whole system that didn't inhibit her from becoming fully conscious. But from a cultural and social point of view, it was more appropriate for the men to serve in this capacity, and Brahmin families for that matter. Of course, this was with regard to Varnashram. That's what it's talking about. If you're going to be a guru within the Varnashram, you should be a Brahmin, male Brahmin. So they invoke these statements from Varnashram without understanding its place. And this is an example of bhakti being covered over by karma, right? Now they will say, this example, they will say, well, if a woman becomes really qualified, like a Janava or something, that's another thing. Well, yeah, that's a good argument to make, and that's why it happened in those times. It wasn't normal, but if one became very, very prominent, yes, it would be accepted. But in entirely different social circumstances, then you have to be thoughtful enough to understand what was the social reasoning for that and whether it applies in the present set of circumstances. Innovation of community, made up of people, largely international community, outside of India, outside of the Varnashram system, right? So it's incredible how powerful, how strong of a hold this Varnashram perspective can have. And these uh, devotees who, have left our party bar, some of them want to hear the kind of criticisms. This is the kind of silly criticisms that they offer, that they're hearing from their gurus, who are now led to believe. I saw this from one of the disciples. Now the real dispensation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to come all over the world. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. It's not happening. It already happened. You didn't even realize that you were part of it, and how it was coming through you. Nityananda Prabhu himself was coming and telling you, you don't need a Brahmin thread, and if you want one, you can wear one. If it works, to help spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, wear it. That's okay. Wear it around your head. This is, so this is how he preached to Udarandata Thakur. They want to cut your thread. Take it off. Cut it. Throw it away. You don't need it. You look beautiful with tulsi beads, kantimala, and Vaishnav tilak, right? And he told them also, you look more beautiful than that. You are my eternal associate, Subahu, one of my Gopals in the Braj Leela. And your name is Udaran. Udaran. Udharan. Udhara means to rescue, to deliver. Udaran, the one who rescues, the one who delivers. And he became the right-hand man of Nityananda Prabhu. He would go with him everywhere, cook for him. And the Brahmins complained, this Nityananda Prabhu, okay, comes from a Brahmin family. He's a bit of an avadut. He's going everywhere, traveling and preaching. And they asked him, where do you get your meals? Who cooks for you? Do you cook for yourself wherever you go? Because, you're going to all these other sectors of society. And he said, Udarn cooks for me. And sometimes I cook for him. That's what he told them. He cooks for me. Sometimes I cook for him, he said. That's what he said. And then Nityananda Prabhu took something from what he cooked, and planted it in the ground, and a tree came up. A tree or a vine, I forget. It's still there today, still growing after hundreds of years. And then in the immediate vicinity, the Brahmins, they had to rethink, right? Who is Nityananda Prabhu and what is the dispensation? And Nityananda Prabhu then, with Udarandata Thakur, began to widely circulate the Nam Sankirtan, which became the singular ritual. All the rituals of Varnashrams they were disenfranchised from or trying to follow anyway, forget about them. Gather together, all of you, men, women, and children, do Nam Sankirtan. And like I say, by the time the Portuguese got there, in every home there was Sankirtan and images. They didn't know what the images were, but the images, the God of the God, and dancing in the streets. And so, if imagine what this Saptagram was like by the influence of Nityananda Prabhu, assisted as he was by Udarandata Thakur. Udarandata Thakur, his name is appropriate given his compassion for others. We've talked about his extraordinary outreach to minister to the people, to feed people, to house people during the famine in Bengal. It's extraordinary. And his Nam Sankirtan. His life of bhajan is also extraordinary. It's said that after the passing of Nityananda Prabhu, then he retired, chanting lakhs of names. He ate only milk, slept a half an hour a day. These kind of descriptions are there. happened once, the temple. Raghunath, in the line of Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, there were 4, 5, 6 devotees, a couple men, a few women there. They were just chanting japa. And then I talked to them, they took time. As soon as the arti came, put down the V, they go to arti. Artik's over, come back, chanting. Artik, chanting, back, japa, little prashad. This is how they spent their time, living in the temple like this, following Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. So he's compared to him. And these were, among among the Dwadasa Gopals who were Nityananda Prabhu's, main assistants coming from Braj for the wide dissemination of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Udarnadata Thakur also went to Jagannath Puri. He spent six years there with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ate his cooking also. And as I say, it was revealed to him when Nityananda Prabhu came to Saptagram that you are my eternal associate, Subahu Gopa. So there's a nice verse I'll cite here. I've made a note of it because I have not committed it to memory, but nice verse from the Gautamiya Tantra. There's a section in the Gautamiya Tantra. This is one of the tantras, Sattvic tantras, that the Gaudiyas quote quite a bit. It's said in the Bhagavatam, Nana Tantra Vidanena, Krishna Varnanta Sa Krishnam, Sango Pangascha Parshadam, Yagnai Sankirtana Prayer, Yajantihi Sumedasa. That's a famous verse. The line before that, the last line of the previous verse, says, and in the Kali Yuga, the worship will be drawn from the Tantras, in the Tantric literature. This means the Gautamiya Tantra, Krishna Yamala, Nard Pancharatra, these kind of texts, from the Shakti section there of the sacred texts, right? And so from Gautamiya Tantra, there's a section there in which many names of many Gopals, associates of Krishna in Sakyaras, are mentioned, one after another, after another, after another. And some of them, more prominent ones, a verse or two with a brief description of them is found. So we find this 2 verses. Chandra Mandala Sanghaso Smitana Pankajai Krishna Prema Rasamoda Madha Ghunita Lochana Sadanritya Rasaladha Pulaka Prema Vipala Sundara Nagaro Gaura Su Bahu Su Prakirtita. The Gopa named Subahu is handsome and heroic. He has a fair complexion. His smiling face is like a lotus flower, or splendid as a moon. The hairs on his body stand erect in ecstatic love. He is always filled with happiness and dancing. His eyes move restlessly, pushed by the nectar of blissful love for Krishna. Subahu Gopa ki jai. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of revealed insights in texts, Gaudiya or otherwise, about Subahu. This is a rare couple of verses here. And we don't find much either coming from Udarndatapur there, Udarnpur, from the Shripad of Udarndat, just mention of the fact. It's unfortunate, but we are very much drawn there nonetheless. And it's why we celebrate this day in particular, and that is because our Prabhupada comes from this Suvarnavanic community, and the patron saint of his family is Udarndatta Thakur. So annually, Prabhupada and his family, since he was a child, would make a pilgrimage to Udarndatapur from Calcutta and participate in the worship there. So he's very important figure, I should say, in Prabhupada's spiritual life. Again, Prabhupada was born in the Suvarnavanic community, which he said by the time of the British, was a as of the gold merchants. They helped to finance. They lent money to the British. Lent money to anybody, right? Who had good credit. So they lent money to the British, and it helped the British to establish their 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 their, their center there. But again, there's not much said about Subhahugopa, but he's important to us. But and of course, he's the Priyanarmasaka. Among the Dwadasa Gopals, you can find either Priyasakas or Priyanarmasakas. Those who have Keval Sakyarati, pure Sakyarasa, or who have Sakyarasa influenced by a drop of Madhurya. The Priyasakas and Priyanarmasakas, right? Subhahu is of the latter. But among them, for Upasakas or Sadhakas, who have some affinity for the idea of the Priyanarmasaka bhav, Subhalasaka is really such a prime example, the leader of all of the Masakas, and comparatively, much has been written about him, and we've been reading in the morning from that section of Circle of Friends about the very nature of this very peculiar Bhava Sheshana, special bhav that is Atyantika Rahasya. It has knowledge of inner very special secrets within the Braj Leela, right? A very special and very peculiar bhava. The Priyanarmasaka is something that has been brought out to the modern world from Goloka by Rupa Goswami alone. No one has written about Priyanarmasaka. No one previously in history. Rupa Goswami, of course, draws from the aesthetic tradition of India, the founder of Charya of such being Bharat Maharaj. And for example, in the aesthetic tradition, in drama or in plays and poetry, the romantic hero of a drama will have some male assistants, 4 of them. So Rupa Goswami takes these terms, let us say, from aesthetic theory, and he applies it to Braj, to his way of explaining Bhakti Rasa, right? So you can find the Cheta, the Vita, these different types of assistants, the Vidusaka, and so forth. But along with the 4, he adds his own, the Priyanarmasaka. And this emphasis in Gaudiya Vaishnavism is far and away placed on the Priyanarmasaka in terms of that role of assisting the hero in his romantic pursuits. So they show up, right? They show up in the Goswami's literatures. Madhumangal, Subal, Ujval. Madhumangal is, of course, more than anyone else, and sometimes by different names, but he serves less as a primary example for us. If we were to pick somebody from the Braj Leela that was a Ragatmika, whose footsteps we wanted to follow in, he serves less for us in that regard because why? He's not a Gopal in form. He's a Brahmin. And he wants you to know that. Hey, I'm a Brahmin, you Vaishnav, you Gopals, you cowherd, you dung-head people, cow dung brains. What do you know about anything? This is his play, right? So, this is also important. The buffoon of a Brahmin, if you will, that he is, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava literature, is subtly saying something about the points I was raising earlier. Don't get too proud about your Brahmanism. Okay? We don't take it too seriously. You're a joke. With your criticism of Vaishnavism, right? I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta had a big debate that he went to, Vaishnavism or Brahmanism, which is at the time, right? And there was an assassination attempt on him for his position that he took for Vaishnavism. So this shouldn't be lost on you. The character of Madhu Mangal. There's many implications, right? This is one of them. Prabhupada used to really chuckle about that. I mean, he didn't come out with this point, but he could, if you understood, he would Paul. What has been written about him? We've heard statements of Rupa Goswami petitioning him, praying in Manjari Bhav to Subal to introduce him to Radha and Krishna, for example. What is his position in the Leela? Which is means what is the position in the optimum of the Narmasaka Bhava? So we, in a broad way, in a general way, we follow our Gurudev. I follow Prabhupada and Subal, and if Subal wants to place us in the camp of Subahu, and tell us more about that camp, we're ready to go there. This is the camp, at least from in Gaur Leela, an extension of Gaur Leela, that Prabhupada was born in. Right? Prabhupada was born in the Swarnavarna family, and his patron saint of his family was Udaradatta Thakur. Sridhar Maharaj marked this point, underscored this point. It has some significance. Why was Prabhupada born in this family? Well, according to Prabhupada, which would be a good source, right? What do you think? It would be because of his previous life, right? Now, many of my God brothers and God sisters want to say Prabhupada has come from Goloka Vrindavan. He didn't have a previous life. I'm not going to object to that, to feel like that. That's fine. But what Prabhupada said is something different. Whenever Prabhupada spoke about his previous life or why he was born in a Vaishnava family and so forth, he would cite the Bhagavad Gita. 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna has been encouraged now since the middle of the 2nd chapter to forego the Varnashram and practice yoga as a means to realizing the Atma that's never slain, right? So you don't have to worry, nobody's going to die here at Kurukshetra, right? This is basically the teaching. First half of the 2nd chapter, he teaches you're not the body. 2nd chapter, beginning with the discourse on yoga in verse 39, he says, and he starts talking about the way, right? The way. And it's nuanced over the different chapters, but it's the way to transcend really the Varnashram and know yourself, right? And of course, the first verse, as I've said before, in that discourse on yoga, if you look carefully about it, it's obviously about bhakti yoga. Because he says, Neha Bekurmanashosti pratyabhayana vidyate svalpamapi asadharmasya trayate matobhaya. In this effort, there'll never be any loss. Whatever, in Varnashram, whatever you put in, there will be diminishing returns. You'll get a result, and the result will gradually diminish. So you go to heaven, and your good karma will be expired, and again you come down. But in this path, whatever you gain, that is eternal. That must be a path that comes from the nirguna, where things are eternal. It can't be a sattvic path. It can't be a rajasic path, like the path of Gyan and Yoga, sattvic, or the path of Varnashram, karma marg, acquisition, pravritti marg, acquisition, rather than nivritti marg, path of renunciation. So when Krishna starts to take Arjuna on the path of nivritti, he starts by speaking about bhakti yoga, and he ends his discourse at the end of the 6th chapter also, with an emphasis on Shadaban bhajate mam yomam same yuktatam. The best of all, better than a Gyani, better than a yogi of any kind, is one who has faith in me, who is a devotee. Then we go into the 7th chapter, middle 6, it's all about bhakti, right? But as we approach that end of the 6th chapter and the end of his discourse on yoga, Arjuna is like taking a deep breath, and he says, this is all great, but like, we've been talking about meditation here, and to control the mind, I think, is very difficult. What do you think? It's hard. He said, I think it's like trying to capture the wind. Difficult. what does Krishna say? He said, yeah, you're right. But it's possible. Vairagena chagayate. By abhyasena takuntaya vairagena chagayate. It's possible, oh, my dear cousin, Kunteya, dear one, it's possible. But by abhyas, by practice, he means the practice of bhakti by which vairagya will come about naturally, letting go, accepting the positive, let go of the negative, right? It's possible, he says. And then, of course, he goes on to say that again, that incidentally, if you were to perform the varna ashram duties such that you could go to heaven, right, for a long time, which is the highest result that you can get from that path, and it's not easy. You have to do everything right. Krishna says, comparatively, the yoga that I'm talking to you about, if you do that wrong, you'll go to heaven. But you won't go there because you wanted to go to heaven. You wanted to go to me. But you didn't do it perfectly. You didn't perfect yourself. So you went to heaven. You're a special person in heaven. And when I take birth on earth, in my Prakat Leela, if you're still there, you can come down. Therefore it said, those gopas who Sukadeva is marveling about, he says, Krita Punya Punja, Sakam Bijaru, Krita Punya Punja. What kind of pious activities did they perform? He's not talking about Nityasiddhas. They didn't perform any special activities. They're Nityasiddhas. He's talking about sadhakas, and there are two types. They've come from heaven, or they've come from earth, right? Imperfect practice can result in going to heaven, and the lifespan there is a long time, right? A long, long time. So you could be waylaid there, not a bad place, right? But you're there for a different reason. You got there for a different reason. So you have all these samskars, yoga samskars, bhakti samskars, we can say. Therefore, when Krishna takes birth, they come. Otherwise, he says, but if you've been more attentive in your practice, made more progress, and almost perfect, then instead of going to heaven, what will happen? You'll take birth on earth. And where? In a Vaishnava family. Prabhupada said, and I took birth in a Vaishnava family. Gurmohan De was my father. And if anybody even looked like a Vaishnava, he invited them into the house and said, please speak to us. Tell us something. Tell us about Krishna. He prayed that his son, me, would become a servant of Radharani. Taught me how to play the mridanga. And every year took me to Datta Thakur's Sripat, right? Every year. So Prabhupada said, because I was born in a Vaishnava family. Because of this. This is what he told us, right? And but he got a Madhurya Rasa Guru. Yes, he got a guru, Madhurya Rasa Guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, right? Who happened to be a ray of Vishnu called by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to help him in his broad campaign that he envisioned to put Gaudiya Vaishnavism on the stage of the world religions, right? Make whatever relative detail adjustments you may see fit are necessary. They may have a downside, but if they have an upside that one more person takes to Krishna consciousness, we'll take it. We'll digest the downside, whatever it might be, if there even is any. You want to say there's a downside? That's how we would look at it. Even if you could prove it is inconsequential. Because one more person became a Vaishnava. Just one. You need many, thousands and thousands, right? We're all here because of this. And those who are criticizing, only criticizing it because, again, we're coming in their face. Somebody's coming from our party bar, leaving it and saying, right? giving them some money. They're all living off of Bhaktivinoda Paribar, the whole Gaudiya Vaishnava community party, living off of the campaign of Nityananda Prabhu in the modern day, empowered campaign. Bhaktivinoda Thakur comes in a line of Nityananda Prabhu, right? So Prabhupada, his connection with Udananda Thakur is something we shouldn't ignore. Later on, in the midst of his campaign, he met with one of the Saivites, leading Saivite at Udarndatapur, and they spoke in the night, and subsequently Prabhupada wrote him a letter. That letter has been published, it's available. Prabhupada speaks to him there about wanting to have service at Udarndatta Thakur's Shripad, his temple. And he's concerned, he wanted to know, how much land do you have? I want to make sure that you have enough land that you will always be able to have enough to grow rice and vegetables to provide for the temple, for its self-sufficiency. Because, I mean, this is how the temple was provided for, right? So I wanted, how much land do you have? We can increase the land. I would like to put 25 devotees there, full time, he said, with no salary. They will just serve the deities, the grounds, and so forth. This is my desire. So it hasn't been fulfilled yet. We'll see, maybe we can do something about it. But we bring it up to show that Prabhupada's connection there. But why he got initiated by somebody in Madhurya Rasa, no, he got initiated by somebody that was called by Bhakti Vinod to help in the campaign, and he was from the Nityananda group. He thought, well, this guy will be a good assistant. This will help. He will be a big help to him. So Prabhupada was blessed and chosen in this way, right? And after all, no harm, right? In Armasakas, let's look at another principal, one of them, who gave Gaurnitai deities everywhere. What is his name? Gauridas Pandit, the very Subal of Gaur Leela. He worshipped the Gaurnitai deities his whole life, and in the end he went to Vrindavan. And there he has Radha Krishna deities, and there he left the world, and there is his samadhi. So the worship of Radha and Krishna is also part of those, the life, the bhajan, very much so. And we've been hearing about this in our readings, about the precise nature of this Narmasaka Bhav. We can see from that. It's very intimately connected with the romantic life of Radha and Krishna. In fact, it's indispensable, as we've been hearing, in the life of Radha and Krishna's romantic exploits, their parakiya. So we fall flat today before Udarndatta Thakur. We invoke his blessing, may more be known to us by his grace about his life in the Nitya Leela as Subahu, Sakha. And may we become kind-hearted like him, generous like him, right? A generous heart, and apply ourselves equally in dedication and practice to the angas of bhakti. Shri Udarndatta Thakur Avirbhav Mahamutsabatiti ki jai, Udaranpur ki jai, Isi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Nityananda Ram ki jai, Krishna Balaram ki jai, Radha Govinda ki jai, Gaur Bhaktivinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari.